This is The Spot, a BYU-Idaho radio production where we talk about what you're talking about at BYU-Idaho. The views and opinions of this podcast are not that of BYU-Idaho Radio or the university and are solely the opinions of the hosts. Today's hosts are
Abigail Barber,
Keith Knight,
and Maiya Waddell. Today we're talking about weird things that Americans do. So this is going to be kind of a fun episode because we're all from different areas, right?
Yeah, so I grew up in California. My dad's from England, and I have dual citizenship. And whenever I'm not at school, I normally live in England.
So cool. How about you, Keith?
I guess I'm kind of a weird situation. I mean, I did serve my mission in Australia for a little bit of time, but other than that, I'm originally from Idaho Falls, and I barely leave the country and barely leave where I am, so I don't have much outside experience, but we'll see what I have.
Yeah.
Representation.
We're grateful for anything. So we'll just go ahead with the spot take. So my spot take is I'm Finnish American, but I've grown up in America, so I don't really know any difference when it comes to weird things that Americans do. So maybe except for like fast food and reality TV. But what do you guys think? I'm curious to hear your perspectives.
Now that I actually mentioned fast food, I think of two experiences when I served in Australia. First one, I remember everyone in Australia saying our bread is too sweet.
Really? Interesting.
Don't think I would recognize the difference. I don't understand that much, but also we definitely oversize everything in America. I remember when I went to Australia and I went to one of the fast food places, I asked for a medium, and we know how the size of the mediums are here in America. It is like the size of a small, I kid you not. And I was like, my first day, and I'm like, this is a medium? And I just accepted it for like 8 months and forgot how big a medium is. And I ended up getting larges on Australia constantly because the larges are like the mediums. That's the one I want. So when I get home from my mission because of COVID, when I get to the airport, my parents and I, we go get food, and I decide, hey, let's go to something, and they asked me what I want. I said a large, and they gave me a look, and out came the large, and I was like, oh, I forgot America's messed up. And I forgot about that experience. And yeah, those size differences are very, very different over in Australia.
We like to stay hydrated.
If it's hydration, if it's water, we're over-sugaring ourselves, and I can't blame them.
It is so true that our size portions are huge compared to like Europe and Australia.
The rest of the world definitely. Whenever my family comes to visit, they always comment on the sizes, and they're always like, oh, we have to adjust for the fast food because the drink sizes and like everything, it's just bigger. So.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And buildings are bigger too than in England, I've noticed. So I have to like walk further.
Everything is so big here in America.
Yeah, the countryside is big. Lots of other things are big.
For sure. What's your spot take?
My spot take? I don't really have any hot takes.
Really?
I don't think so. Well, nothing that anybody hasn't heard before, I don't think. Probably that nothing's weird if you're used to it. That's not really a hot take though. Like there's so many things all around the world that people do that we could consider weird if we had like if we didn't understand it and if we weren't accustomed to it, we'd think it was weird. So like giant spiders in Australia.
Don't get me started on that, please. Don't get me started on that. So you said when you leave outside the country and you're over in England, when you say that you go to America, do they ever ask like, oh, does this actually happen in America? Do they have any questions like that?
Well, we like to talk about cultural differences. It's just a typical conversation when I'm just barely getting to know people, and it's always funny when people find out that I have British citizenship and that I live in England a lot of the time. Because it's like, yeah, no, I know about this stuff. It's not weird. And then people do like American accents for funsies. But yeah, they all ask stuff mostly related to TV shows. But yeah, I can't remember too much. But I do know that they have movies and TV series that we have like on Netflix and on Disney Plus and whatnot. So they get a lot of access to the same stuff. They'll ask about high school. High school is one that people ask about a lot because the education system differences are wild. Like high school is a different age for them.
Oh yeah.
So like 14, 15 is about right, but when you get like 16, 17, that's no longer high school in England. That's sixth form, and you do like your GCSEs, like studying like for what you're gonna do in university, basically. Like, you have to know what you're doing when you go to university. Like, you have a 3-year degree, have to know what you're doing, specialize, hone in on a few subjects, everything else goes. And then you have your A-levels where you specialize even more, like get rid of everything else, just focus on tiny subject thing. And then that's what you do for university, basically. So we get a bunch of diversity with what we have with our options, but we have more time at university too. And yeah, that's one thing that people ask about, because they see movies where you're like 16 and in high school, and it's like, what is this? Like, you're 12 when you're in high school, and you're like 13 and 14 and 15. And it's like, no, it's different in the US.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And college is, like, they call it college when they're like 16, 17 sometimes.
They do the same thing in Australia. They call it college when you're in high school, and then it's uni when you're in university.
Yeah, uni.
I don't know anything else other than that. I just word in the street, I guess.
Yeah.
I didn't experience most of the outside culture other than just talking with people.
Yeah. Oh, and they also like talk about fast food a little bit, and like burgers and stuff. And they don't always know what milkshakes are. So.
Oh really?
Like, they put colored syrup with milk, and they call it a milkshake, and it's not a milkshake.
Not at all.
I think in Australia, the Sprites are called lemonades.
Oh yeah, that happens in England too.
Really?
Yeah, actually England and Australia are part of the Commonwealth, which is like a series of countries that was owned by England that are still on good terms.
Yeah, people in Australia don't like being called when you say they're just British people. They don't find that very, very nice, I guess.
I can imagine. Yeah, they are part of the Commonwealth, so they have like this alliance thing. Like, I think there's some other things. They have meetings, and like their leaders meet up sometimes, and then they have like tours with the royal family visiting and stuff.
That is so cool.
Yeah, I know about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, culture shocks though.
For sure. I have family on my mom's side that is European. So whenever it's like your birthday or graduation, Americans will always react with such like, oh my gosh, that's so cool, like that's so exciting, congrats. And they're very over the top with their reactions. However, if you were to go to my mom's family and tell them like, hey, I'm graduating or it's my birthday, they'll just say like, oh, okay. That's great. And it's not as like over the top and exciting. And it's just because they tend to be more reserved and composed compared to Americans. So I find that very interesting in different cultures, that they have different ways of like reacting.
Yeah, my little sister actually lived with my grandparents in England a little bit, and she went to this ukulele club, and one of the older gentlemen said something like, I can't believe you're American. You're the most un-American American I've ever seen, because she was being very reserved and polite, and she's very shy, and a lot of people think of Americans as like the tourists or what they see in movies and television, so they don't really know Americans. Normally. They normally think of us as like confident, outgoing, little obnoxious, maybe culturally unaware.
That's what other countries like to do. If you see an American, they're probably full of money. If they're traveling, they're full of money. They're overconfident, and they're going to believe everything you say. So easy scams.
Oh my goodness. That's what it's like in some countries. Not everyone's like that, but
yeah. I'm actually going to go I'm going to be heading to Mexico next month. So I am meeting a couple friends who decided to go on a cruise. So I'm skipping a week of school.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
That's going to be so exciting.
We'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm going to be fully aware that people are going to try to take advantage of that and see what happens from that. So we'll see how much people I talk to, but the people I'm going with served their missions speaking Spanish, so at least I know someone who speaks the language. I do not know anything, so which is a good thing.
Yeah. Yep. I only speak English, but to be fair, I only need to speak English.
Have you tried studying on Duolingo a little bit?
I did on the mission when I was bored, being stuck during quarantine. I learned a little bit of Spanish. My companion was learning Samoan.
Oh, cool.
And because there was a big Samoan culture as well in Australia as well, so I got to pick up a few words every now and then. But I haven't put much effort into trying to speak another language. Took Spanish classes back in high school, in middle school. Don't remember anything.
That is okay.
It's so true.
Yeah, I'm not the best at learning new languages, but apparently when I'm exposed to them a lot, I can pronounce stuff okay.
That's actually really interesting because my mom can do the same thing. If she's with people and they're speaking in a certain accent, she can like highlight that accent and talk the same way she starts talking like that.
Interesting.
I think that is so cool. So yeah, super cool. I have some episode facts here. Did you guys know that Americans often smile widely in photos, which some cultures find overly enthusiastic?
That doesn't surprise me.
Really?
I think it's a little bit of a buzzkill. Like, it sounds like we're just trying to have fun. Like stereotypically, like most Americans to other countries are like trying to have fun and like make things awesome and live life to the fullest, and then other countries are like sticking their noses up like, no, you can't have fun, that's ridiculous, you don't do this, how dare you,
Exactly.
you hooligans.
And like how in many cultures shoes are taken off at the door, but Americans like to wear their shoes inside.
It depends.
It depends.
It depends on the culture. Even there's some cultures that even you take your shoes off and then you put on indoor shoes and you wear those inside as well. It's based on the culture as well.
I think some, like, you wear your shoes inside even because of dirt floors. And then in the US, you get a lot of people who will not want you to wear shoes indoors.
Yeah.
And
My mom. She always told us, no shoes inside the house.
but she's finished.
That is true. That is true.
But yeah.
Did you guys know that Americans often eat dinner around 5 or 6 p.m., which often feels early for most people,
That makes sense.
compared to cultures where dinner is served close to 8 or 9?
Yeah, in Europe, like in Southeastern Europe especially.
I don't like that.
France and Spain.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Like you have your nap in the middle of the day, or like have your little snacks, and then later you have all your friends over and have a late party, and then you have like a bunch of food.
Yeah.
So do they have like lunch later in the day though?
I think I don't know about the details exactly, but I do know that there's normally like smaller like meal-ish times.
Yeah.
Hobbits were right then,
Yes.
of having multiple meals throughout the day.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yes, the hobbits are right.
Yeah, you have like a smaller lunch and then you have a really big dinner at the end.
It's food for thought.
Exactly.
It's food for thought.
And then something I thought was interesting, and my dad actually does this, is Americans love long road trips and will often drive hours to get somewhere instead of taking a train or plane, even if it's less convenient.
Well, here's the thing with those countries. Everything is far away from each other. Like you literally go from like, I don't know the exact time distance and stuff, but like you can go all the way across the country in just like a matter of a couple hours. Where in the United States, it's like 3 hours just to get to the next state in Utah.
Europe, if you travel 3 hours any direction, you're probably going to be in another country, maybe even like countries over.
See, that's why it's exciting for them, is because they get to go outside the country and see something in that sort of time. We have to go like 3 hours just to go to the next state.
Yeah, some people think that they can hit New York, Miami, and LA in one day.
Good luck.
Or like in 1 week, maybe.
Good luck.
No, it's a lot of driving.
Like, if you want to stay awake for that entire time, never leave the car, maybe. Have all your food inside, have a robot to feed you.
Good luck, honestly. Did you guys know that tipping is actually not really a thing in other countries?
It is to some extent in England, but it's only if you're really good, like exceptionally good service. And I think some things it's more like a common courtesy, but it's definitely not as big of a percentage as it is in the US, and it's not as much of an expectation.
They actually pay their servers. They don't just rely everything fully on tips. They actually will provide people enough money. Yeah. Some problems. That's a side topic.
Did you guys know that like emphasis on school pride is also really big here in America? They don't really do that in other countries.
I'm not too surprised about that.
Yeah. We are like really patriotic, and then in other countries they're not as.
Yeah, and Pledge of Allegiance seems kind of scary to some people when they're visiting. So if we stand up and pledge fidelity to a flag, I think that would be concerning in any country if you're like not familiar with it, especially if you have like a bad reputation as a country.
Yeah. Yeah.
like if people have like bad stereotypes in their country, especially if we've had like conflicts recently, like bad conflicts with countries, they'd probably think that was extra scary or concerning. So maybe, like, I know that this is like, we don't drink at all at the school. Well, I mean, some people do, but I don't. But I know there have been students who have. But anyway, so we're not legally allowed to drink until age 21, like alcohol. And then in other countries, it's normally 18, if not sooner. Like in England, I know that if you have an adult present, you can have like alcohol at age 5. And I know that my grandmother has memories of her and her little sister, like by their grandparents being given alcohol on Christmas to an extent that upset their parents.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
So,
What the heck?
yeah, so
Why would a 5-year-old want to drink? I'm sorry. Where in the right mind is giving a 5-year-old something to drink?
I mean, water's fine.
Yes.
Drink water, hydrate, but don't drink alcohol, please.
That is crazy. Anything else?
I can think. I'm baffled. I'm baffled right now.
So Keith's malfunctioning. That's okay.
We're good.
I broke Keith with alcohol talking.
So I actually have a quiz for you guys, and then I'll read out the poll, which I forgot to mention.
Thank you so much.
Yes, of course. So the first question in the quiz is, what condiment do Americans famously put on everything, from pizza to salads? It's multiple choice. Is it A, fry sauce, B, yellow mustard, C, ketchup, or D, ranch dressing?
Is it ranch?
I thought it was ketchup.
Oh no, it's ranch.
Really?
Yeah.
No,
But like we don't put ketchup in salad, like ketchup
my
in
grandpa
salad.
did. My grandpa put ketchup in his.
Culture shock.
Yeah, no. That's what I thought. Pizza. No, ranch.
Yeah.
Ranch with pizza, 100%. Yes. But no, I thought that. Yeah, my grandpa did ketchup on his salad, so I thought that was kind of Americans put ketchup on everything. Ranch, also true as well, so
That is crazy.
I'm not against that either one, but yeah, no, I remember my mom telling me about that, and don't know how I feel about it still. Would never do it.
No.
Well, I mean, in England, I noticed like people put vinegar on stuff a lot more, especially like my grandmother. Like it'll go in salads. It goes on like chips, which are basically French fries. Vinegar goes on a lot of stuff like fish. Yeah.
Wow, that is crazy cool. Which American food portion size is most likely to shock non-Americans? Is it A, a small coffee, B, a personal pizza, C, a medium fry, or D, a large soda?
Probably a large soda.
Oh my word. True or false? Americans hate air conditioning.
False.
False.
Yeah, no, that's one thing.
false.
That's one thing in Europe that a lot of people seem to want more and more because summers are like really dreadful.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and houses are designed to keep heat in.
Oh yeah, Americans love their air conditioning.
Europeans would love it too,
Oh yeah.
and other people.
Yes. True or false? Americans prefer room temperature drinks over iced ones.
Oh, please. Ice is definitely the preference.
I prefer mine room temperature.
Really?
I'm gonna be honest.
I prefer mine that way too now.
I prefer mine
I didn't
room
used to, but most Americans probably prefer the ice one because we have ice, and in other countries that's a culture shock.
But with ice, it gets watered down and just it don't like the taste of it.
And
So
you
I
have as much to
stay with room.
drink.
I stay with room temperature.
It's really interesting to me. Wow. So I guess it just depends on the person
I
then.
used to like it more to have like ice in it,
Yeah.
and I think it depends on like how hot it is outside really and how much ice we're talking. But generally speaking, I go without ice.
Yeah. Perfect. All right, true or false? Americans are known for smiling at strangers in public places.
Yep.
True.
Yep.
That is so true.
Yep. I remember hearing about that.
Yes.
And then the last one, what is the #1 food item America is obsessed with? Is it A, pizza, B, Tex-Mex, C, anything with sugar in it, or D, peanut butter?
I can see most of those being
Just choose one.
peanut butter.
What do you think, Keith?
I want to say pizza. Yeah, I want to say pizza.
It's peanut butter.
Really?
Yeah. Everybody is obsessed with peanut butter here.
I guess that's fair. I guess that was an analogy.
Yeah.
That reminds me, real quick on that one as well. Yes. That reminds me, I've never heard it happen anywhere else. I remember in Australia, there's a thing that everyone loves called a Tim Tam Slam.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that.
So these little like Tim Tams, like these little like chocolate biscuits, and you get hot chocolate or coffee, whatever you want to do. But we obviously did hot chocolate by mission. Yeah. You bite one end, and then bite the other end, and then you put in a diagonal, and then you put the biscuit into the hot chocolate, and you slurp through the Tim Tam with the hot chocolate, and it melts it.
Oh my gosh!
And then you get to eat it afterwards. That was a very interesting thing I learned about as well.
Oh my gosh, that is so smart.
I feel it's the absolute American thing to do something like that. But no, that I've never heard anything else that happened here. It was only in there I heard about that.
Wow.
They need to do that over here. I think that's really smart.
I tell my mom. I came home. I tell my mom it. She was very excited.
Yeah.
And she was obsessed for like a month, and then stopped.
So that's it. All right, so I'm going to read out the poll questions real quick. All right, so the poll question pretty much was asking you guys what's the weirdest thing that America does and what should they do. And 22% of you guys said switch to the metric system. 53% of you said get rid of the tipping culture. 6% said stop adding ice to every drink. And 19% said nothing. America's quirks are perfect. So that is the results of the poll. I asked my mom this actually because she is Finnish. So I asked her some questions regarding what's weird to her. And she told me that showering a million times a day and changing clothes a million times a day really confused her. And as well as like people not being seen outside the house without makeup. I know that I am very guilty of that. Many times I've been like, no, I have to put my mascara on. And people won't be seen outside the house with fake lashes and nails as well. My mom thought that was really interesting because in Finland they don't really do that. Yeah. But the big thing that she mentioned is that people will say, how are you doing? Well, people as in Americans, they will say, how are you doing? But they don't actually listen to your answer. They'll just say, oh, how are you doing? Oh, okay. And walk away.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah. And someone that's from Finland or from like other countries, when they hear that, they kind of go, oh, I'm good, how about you? And then the American just walks away, and it's kind of the hard way of learning.
Yeah, I like to listen. I think it's probably more like habitual stuff, like maybe like just a habit of what you're doing with asking people how they're doing. But I think it's just kind of like a way that we acknowledge people. I always listen and I pay attention, and I try to respond to the question. Sometimes I'll say stuff like tired or I'm doing terribly, see ya, and stuff like that.
Right, like always try to
give it like a real answer.
Right, acknowledge them instead of just being like, oh, I'm good, and then walk away from the conversation, because it teaches them that we don't care or that we don't really want to know.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that like we can care, like we can listen, like.
Exactly.
Well, I know that in England, like people like also do like the nails and like the false lashes and stuff. And I know that in other parts of Europe, people can be very appearance focused, not just in the US. And I also know that I don't normally wear makeup if I can help it, because I'm wearing makeup because I've worked before this, and I am supposed to wear makeup if I can. So I don't like wearing makeup though normally, and I feel like that helps a lot with my self-confidence.
Yes.
But yeah, there are little differences with like curse words, for example. That's one thing that's amusing, because no matter where I go, there's like I'll hear members saying something that's like it's like. Nope. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
It's I get used to it.
Yeah.
But there's so many words that I have to avoid because they're different dialects, and Americans are obsessed with accents. That's another thing.
Yes.
Yeah, like compared to other cultures, I've noticed, and my dad's culture, from what I noticed, your accent tells you more about where you're from and who your people are. But in American culture, it's more like, oh my goodness, this is so cool, or oh, I don't really like this one, or like, oh my goodness, your accent sounds so cool and fun. And then sometimes people will be like that too, in other places. And then sometimes people will ask if I'm Irish, and I'm American.
Like, are you Irish?
It's like, no.
Question real
It's
quick.
like, no. It's like, I've only been to the Dublin airport a couple of times.
Other than that, that's it. You know, and that's really interesting you bring that up because I have a teacher that I'm taking this semester. He's British.
Yeah,
and yes, yeah. And he actually cannot stand when students, like when they talk to him and they start talking in a British accent, he gets so upset with that. And I always feel bad because like I know that he probably, to him, it might seem like they're kind of making fun of his accent.
Like they're mocking it.
And so he gets really mad and I always feel bad because I'm like, oh, no, we're not trying to do that. But at the same time, I can see where he's coming from.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, but I always feel bad every time a student makes fun of his accent. And I'm like, oh, like I cringe every time.
Well, I'm sure that it's more like,
They're trying
like mimicry is the highest form of flattery because a lot of Americans do love British accents, generally speaking. Yeah, I know that when you get exposed to accents more and more, like you do pick them up, like dialects. It's the correct term is dialects, but
the dialect of it.
because accents come from different languages, whereas accents come from within the same. So within English-speaking dialects, if you hear a different dialect, you're definitely going to start picking it up, especially if you're surrounded by it more. So I went to FSY a couple years ago as a youth in the Leeds and Ireland, like Leeds Mission in Ireland session. And it was really interesting because by the end of the week, everyone's accents were getting muddled up. And so like the British, like the English dialects, English speakers, they were picking up the Irish ones.
Oh my word.
And one of the kids in my stake, he was like, how am I going to explain to my mom that I sound like I'm Irish now?
Oh my word.
And then I heard it in the Irish kids too. Like everyone's accents like all muddled up. We had Americans, we had Irish people, we had people from different parts of England, and it was just, and we had some people from other countries too, like besides that, but that was like the main mix because there are some US military bases in England. So yeah, it was just crazy. And then when the following year when I was a counselor, my youth, she was a little upset because her accent was starting to change to American, and she's like, I'm starting to sound like an American. This is so lame. It was funny.
That honestly sounds like a nightmare though. You have all these different people that speak in different ways, and then it all mixes together, and oh my gosh.
And then your voice like starts to sound differently.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get worried that people are going to think that I'm mocking them because sometimes we do jokingly like say stuff in like different accents with our friends. Like British people do it with Americans, like with American accents. And then they'll like, as soon as I'm like, hey, wait, what were you saying? Then they'll be like, oh shoot, because then they forgot. And then Americans do it sometimes too. I know that my dialects, it's gonna shift a lot because I'm exposed to like different dialects constantly. But I would say I'm predominantly American, so it's gonna be predominantly American most of the time. But yeah, I think it's really cool and it helps me appreciate different dialects more because British people tend to like American ones and Americans tend to like British ones.
Yes, this is a really random story, but when I was younger, I was getting my hair highlighted, and I had someone who was British, and she did my hair, and I remember I told her, I was like, ma'am, I absolutely love your accent so much, I wish I had one. And she looked at me and she said, what are you talking about? You do have an accent. And I said, no, I don't have an accent at all. And she goes, yes, you do, because to me, you have an American accent, and I hear it when you talk. And I was like, no way. Yeah, so she really made my day that day by telling me that I had an American accent, and that to them, we do have accents, just like how to us they have an accent. So I thought, oh my gosh, that's so sweet, and I never forgot that. She like made my day that day. So,
That's so cute.
if you're watching, thank you.
I think it's really cool because no matter where you go in the world, we're all kind of connected because we're all like, to bring it to a spiritual note, like we're all spirit children of, like this is a, like the school, like BYU-Idaho is heavily supported and sponsored by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and we believe that we're all children of God and we all have like divine attributes, and I think it's really cool because at the end of the day we're all humans and like we're all people, and we all have like little quirks and differences, and sometimes that's cultural, and sometimes we do things that other people think are weird, or sometimes we think other people do things that we might think are weird.
Yeah, that's so true.
But like with it being a global church, it's just kind of all connected. Like we go on missions to like different countries, and it kind of connects us all even more. And we learn to speak each other's languages, and I just think it's really beautiful because we're all, no matter where we're born or where we're raised or where we live, we're all people at the end of the day, and we're all children of God. So I think that's really beautiful.
That is so sweet. Thank you so much for sharing that, because that's so true. Like, I'm trying to learn a few languages myself right now, and so it's just so fun to jump into different cultures and learn how they do things and how they live their daily lives, and it's just, it's so cool, especially talking with my mom and hearing her Finnish experiences and how she's had to adapt to American culture over the years. It's very interesting, because when she first came to America, she had a really heavy Finnish, I almost said French accent, Finnish accent.
That would have been funny.
She had a French accent, no, Finnish accent. And yes, it was a huge culture shock for her, just seeing everything completely different from America. And when she met my dad kind of helped her with that. And now when you talk to her, you probably wouldn't even know that she's from Finland, because it's just she has such a strong American accent now. There are a few words that sometimes you can hear it, but for the most part, but for the most part, she sounds American. But what's so sad to me is that she'll tell people, she's like, I'm from New York. And I'm like, Mom, no, you gotta tell them that you're from Europe.
No. So cool. You gotta be honest.
Yeah.
Complaining about the insincerity of Americans.
I just think it's so cool that people have those differences, and that we, like you said, we're all connected in that way. It's so cool. So cool. So, yeah. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and read the spotlight, because we have quite a lot going on this week and over the weekend. So tonight, when this episode airs, there's an event called Symphony Orchestra that will be from 7:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Snow Building, room 136, which is the Barras Concert Hall. And then on Friday, there's a CPR First Aid certification course happening from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. It'll be held at the Chapman Hall 114 conference room and is a ticketed event. And the fees are as follows. So CPR is $45 and First Aid is also $45. If you purchase both classes on the same day, the fee is $55, and there's a $5 fee for a no-show. So yeah, and then the student organ recital is also happening Friday night at 7:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Snow Building, room 136, which is the Barras Concert Hall. And then there's also laser tag happening Friday night. It'll be from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. at the Man Mooring Center, 220 Grand Ballroom. And then on Saturday, there's actually two events. One is the BYU-Idaho Jazz Festival that is happening from 7:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the BYU-Idaho Center Auditorium. The acclaimed Marshall Gilks takes the stage with the premier band South Alliance for an unforgettable evening of swinging music. Tickets are $12 with an iCard and $16 without. And there's also a BYU watch party from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Man Mooring Center, specifically the crossroads and the stage, so in this area. Come cheer for BYU as they play on Saturday. And finally, let's not forget about the Culture Night coming up on March 8th. We'll remind you again of the details in a future episode, but the event will be from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the Hart Building, specifically room 250 auditorium, the gym stage combo. So yeah, that's pretty much all of the spotlight that we have. So you've been listening to The Spot, a production of BYU-Idaho Radio. Today's hosts were
Abigail Barber,
Keith Knight,
and Maiya Waddell. The views and opinions of this podcast are not that of BYU-Idaho Radio or the university and are solely the opinions of the hosts. Producers were the hosts with supervision by Brandon Isle and Natalia Hepworth. Our theme music is Finding Happiness by DJ Quads and The Perpetual Ticking of Time by Artificial Music. To listen to more episodes of The Spot, like and follow us on social media or visit our website, byui.edu/radio, and click podcasts. Be sure to subscribe to The Spot Podcast wherever you get your podcasts and leave a review of the show and leave a comment on what we should talk about next.